Hey, so welcome everyone. This is the World Bnei Akiva. Just like you got cancelled, or let's choose a more positive word. Postponed from your trip. Yeah, I got postponed from my trip. I was meant to be this moment, as I was saying to one of your lovely people here, that I got postponed from being in Düsseldorf. I was on a tour with Nissim and DJ Ludacris, if any of you heard of him, and it got postponed till another time. So we're all going through changes. We were also meant to have a show with Laivy Miller a week ago in Tel Aviv. That also got postponed. So the good news is we're announcing it soon. And that's me. I'm Eddie Goldsmith. I'm Unity Bookings, Unity Marketing. I'm a marketing guy, a booking guy, agent. I've been working with artists for many, many years. And I also have a podcast called Unity Flow, Relationship Flow. The main point is, and that's what we're going to call the class today, is relationship flow during instability, when you don't know what's going to be. The fact that I'm standing here with you guys is already proof that we don't know what's to be, because I teach usually the winter sessions much more. Summer are maybe one or two, but this year we hadn't discussed anything. With Smaller Fly, he's even doing Miluim now, as you all know. So things are all up in the air, including this session. By the way, what you were doing just now, I don't know who was involved in the game, but that's a great example of going with the flow, being active, not just staying inside and freaking out, and choosing inspiration. That's the other part of the class, which is what you guys know how to do. I get that feeling you're like a good energy crew. You know, you're coming from the Southern Hemisphere, yeah? Is that right? Everyone's from Australia, South Africa? Yeah. So the good news is I married a South African, so she was from Cape Town. Yeah, nice to meet you. So I have good taste in women, Baruch Hashem. And I do. I grew up completely secular in London, so usually when I'm teaching the winter crew, Edgeware, it's more the London guys, American guys, so I can have a bit of banter, if you know what that means in English, or in real English. I have a bit of chats with the English crew. But I think Australia is not too far off. Maybe it is nowadays. I don't know. South Africans also. You get the vibe. But it was North London, and that's where I grew up. We grew up in the entertainment world. One of the reasons why. So what did you say? Spurs, definitely. Good choice. I'm a Spurs fan. I was actually at the European, competition. We actually won it. So there we go. Who would believe? Yeah, it can happen. So my family is still in that whole business world of UEFA, all the different, anything you can imagine, entertainment. When I was just in England, just before this war with Iran started, I was at one of my favourite band's concerts. Does anyone recognise the logo? No one? 21 Pilots. I'm a big fan, yeah. I was at that show, we had the most amazing seats, like overlooking the stage. It was beyond. Yeah, it was recent, yeah, it was good. So one of the things, you guys can chime in any moment. My main point is to get into a relationship. Now, why did I bring up the 21 Pilots things? Because we know that this year and a half has been crazy. For my wife specifically, my relationship, my wife's the mother of a soldier who, please God, next week we're going to have the Techis finally. He was served in Gaza, in Lebanon, Syria, machine gunnist, front lines, with Shabak, with all the different heavy scenarios. Anything you saw or heard about in the news in some way or another, he was there involved with, even with the Sinawar story. Any story you can think of, he was there somehow. And we were having a restless year and a half until a few months ago when he finally, Baruch Hashem, finished up. And he's been doing other kinds of service recently. So I needed to celebrate his success. So I booked 6 months in advance, 21 Pilots. You want a ticket for that show, bless you? You got to book in advance, yeah? So I took the risk. You can keep going. But I can't. I took the risk and I booked the 21 Pilots. I booked the flights to London. And thank God, even though everything generally the last time period has been up and down, that trip worked out. And it was an opportunity to finally give something positive to my wife where she wasn't worried about my son in action. And we were able to just sit and be present in the moment. And that's a big goal in relationships, like we're going to talk about it. Relationship, flow, being in the flow, being able to be present with another person. And when things are unstable, it's very hard to do that. When you don't know, like this last 12 days, all of you have gone through a war, in Israel, you didn't go through the beginning part of the war, which I've been with groups who went through that. We even did some Zoom sessions, which are always a bit, whatever. But being able to be here at this point, these last 12 days, with all the booms and the planes, it's very difficult to focus, very difficult to sleep, the sirens. We've all gone through stuff. So everyone's in the same boat on some level. That's encouraging. We're all going through this together. We're not by ourselves. But at the same time, we shouldn't be hard on ourselves that we're not going to be maybe as focused or as calm or able to connect as much as we usually do. So everyone should be less hard on themselves, hard on each other. The expectations go down. I always make a joke with my wife, I don't know, I don't want to get political, but one thing I learned good out from Biden, you know who Biden is, yeah? You always learn something good from everybody, even the biggest schmuck, yeah? So what did I learn from Biden? That the bar's very low. If you make the bar very low in relationships, then you got a chance.
I love Donald J. Trump.
There we go. I'm with you. So that's the point. Make the bar real low.
When did he teach you this, Biden?
Huh?
When did you learn from him? Was this when he was asleep at the G7?
Throughout all the different things. So I made the bar really low, and then I've got a chance of impressing in the relationship. The point is, if you lower the bar, and this is a real point. I know I'm being sort of silly a little bit, but if you lower the bar, then you got a chance. For example, here I walk in and I see this. I don't remember seeing this the last few years. I don't know how this turned up here. But say you're all better than this, yeah? No one's doing this, please God, yeah? So you already have an achievement that you're not being God forbid, harassing anyone or doing crazy stuff in relationships. Now it's just about how you can go up a level. And this is something actually is a real thing in Torah as well. I used to speak to holy rabbis because I've been working in the music business for years. And in the music business, keeping halacha and having all this Torah stuff going on, it can be challenging. It's not an easy business. There's standards, and the business is if you know about the music world, entertainment world, which is I know very intimately, there's a lot of people out there who are not always keeping all the levels and the standards and stuff like that. So I thank God I had good rabbis over the years. And one of them I asked, and he said it's always about doing the lesser, not good thing. So meaning you go up a level by doing the lesser, not crazy thing, and that's a step in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? So this is something which is a profound help in my life, because I know rather being tough on myself and tough on the other person, I'm at a good place with everybody. Because I didn't make it too hard for myself. I didn't make it too hard for the other person also. And that's a good step to go with, especially when things are more unstable and you don't really know where you're standing at with people. So that's the first point, yeah? Relationship flow means you're going to be with all kinds of good people here, and you're going to find an opportunity to connect. The next point is you're going to connect where you're at. But the next point is to choose inspiration. What are you going to do when you have these opportunities like now, where you're not on the supposed trip to Europe, or I'm not in Düsseldorf before doing a concert with Nissim Black, or all the different things that I'm trying to do in my life. So I'm here instead, and you're here instead. Choose inspiration. You chose to come to this class. Some people will stick around. They'll hear a minute. They'll hear 2 minutes. They'll hear the whole thing. However it goes. But the point is that you chose to be here. I remember previous years when I taught here, we had it's called the Intimacy Boys. We had the boys themselves made it. And they made a WhatsApp group, and I'd send every week, we'd do a class, a session, I'd send it there, and they could listen, don't listen. Meaning if they came, they didn't come. But the point was I gave them the choice, and they chose themselves to be in that group, that they had the option. So it's about often making those situations where you're, for example, with these phones, yeah, we'll have a choice what to do with them on some level. I find that highly addictive, and there's a lot of geniuses trying to make us do certain things with them. But as much as you're able to choose, you can choose how to channel your phone in a way that works for you. So when I was speaking to Shmuel about this class, there was a discussion should we talk about Chassidus, because I'm very into Chassidus. I got very into Chassidus when I came back to Eretz Israel. And Shmuel was, yeah. And the other person who worked there was no, maybe not. So I said I could give over a lot of Netflix content if anyone wants to discuss, I don't know if that's more interesting. Chassidus, Netflix, you have a choice. Huh? Chassidus. I like it. Yeah. So what I could do is get Chassidic with the Netflix. What about that?
Yeah.
That's cool? Okay. So over the last few years, one of the things the intimacy course I taught about, I mentioned sex education. I don't know if any of you saw it. Yeah?
Yes.
Really bad. Yeah? Don't recommend it at all. More recently, that was like past stories. More recently, some of the stuff I've been watching is like more Israeli style stuff. I don't know, do you ever watch any of the Israeli ones? Series? But did you watch like, not just, I'm talking about even more recent, like, I don't know, like some of the stuff which shows you Shabbat and Mossad and, yeah, you put powder, yeah. So that kind of level stuff, you start to get a little bit of an insight to how intense Israeli society is. I mean, you're all here now. And you start to get into the vibe of what's going on, and you see how hard in those contexts the relationships are. Yeah, because the founder, they're in all kinds of chaos all the time. So they're trying to have like a relationship, but you see how on the rocks most of their marriages, their relationships are because of the pressures of their position in Mossad or Shabbat or in the army. All these Miluim have to be away for weeks. These are real tough situations. By the way, anyone wants to ask a question, you can. I'm like, if you want to talk about anything. Like, I've done this course, and guys have asked me the most wild questions. Now, being that we're in a mixed session here, we can't get to, sexual stuff, like, be a little bit more sensitive, but other stuff, like, we can totally, go into. Why do I feel I'm able to talk about it? Because my personal journey, one, growing up secular, I was, at the top of that kind of lifestyle. When I came to Israel, I really went full on into the spiritual world, in the Chassidic world. I went full on. And now the last few years, thank God, I'm living in a frat. I'm by Rosh Katz's community. I have the opportunity to really sort of balance out somewhat all my past, all my present, and where I want to head. And I feel like it's coming together, even with all how unstable the world is, in my own personal space, in my home, my relationship, my wife, my kids, everything's much more together, much more unified. And that's something everyone themselves personally can think about. Like, you're still young and you're still in the searching stages, but you now, thank God, you feel like you have a lot of choice, a lot of opportunities. But in some ways, for example, you're Bnei Akiva, you're not in Europe, so you weren't able to choose that. That was something overwhelming that came out from outside. But one of the encouraging points is when these things happen, you get to really connect inside and figure out, well, I really wanted to be somewhere else, and I'm here now. But now I'm going to choose to now really be here, be present, go with the flow. And that's something which you'll see again and again in relationships. You're not always going to get what you want in the relationship. There's two of you. So she might want to do something else, or he, if you're with a he might want to do something else. You're going to have to figure out, how do I flow in the space I'm in, that I'm in tune with this person. And for example, me not traveling is a bonus, because now I get more time with my family. All right, I wanted the money, I wanted to be able to do my thing in the world, yeah? I wanted to make some dosh, yeah? You know what that means. But you can't always decide when and what and how. And that's part of going with the flow, Let me ask you a question. Let's ask everyone. Have anyone here felt the last few weeks, felt like they're not in control, they don't really know what they want to do with themselves, they feel a bit nervous about their future? Has anyone felt that? Yeah. Okay, we're all on the same, yeah? I mean, I'm feeling it, yeah? And, you can almost mourn in a certain way, for what you weren't able to do. You wanted to do something, you can't do it, it's a missed opportunity. But what do you have to do? What's the key 2 words that everybody should know on their lips these days? What is it? Very good. Wow, you guys are real Chassidim. Yeah, Shemai so. But what was the other 2 words? It's a famous concept in today's society. What do you know? Very good. Wow, you guys, you're on a high level. But yeah, no, it's beautiful. I would say, as well as all those, because they're amazing, letting go. Letting go. You don't have to feel. Yeah, letting go. Does anyone relate to those 2 words? Letting go. That's another important thing. We first mentioned about really making the most of the present and the people you're with now. That was the first point. Choosing inspiration. The third point, and this is a very important 2 words, letting go. and just allowing the way life is coming at you to be there. Obviously, like our friend here said, you want to be successful together, you want to be victorious, you want to have lots of beautiful moments in life. Yeah, you want to experience the best of life, you want to make the most of life, but sometimes it's not going to go your way. And in relationships, that's one of the most important points, is just to let go, not to hold on a grudge, not to say, it needs to be this way, I need to be somewhere else. In a deep way myself, like when I grew up secular, let me tell you a bit of a story. So in the secular world, I used to run nightclubs, yeah? I had a club that was called Pimps and Whores, yeah? I'm not joking, I'm being serious. And Pimps and Whores. So it was a very successful nightclub, thank God. It was right in the centre of London. My wife, who please God, is going to come in about half an hour or whatever when we finish. She was at that night. She was one of my VIP guests. We weren't going out there. We were very close. But she was there. And she witnessed my nightclub time period. She came to Israel same time as me. We ended up, always being connected. It was a very deep story. But before we get into that, part of Pimps and Whores was the way I did it successfully. Like, we're going to try to do it with Laivy Miller in a holy way in 2 weeks in Tel Aviv. We tried to get everyone involved in the show. So in the nightclub, I had 3 rooms, 3 different DJs, and
Is it still open?
Where's Batman?
yes, it was in London. So, and what you have to understand is, I was a young guy. I was like your age actually, and I managed to coordinate this kind of level of event. We sold out the nightclub. There was over 1,000 people there, and it was a high class nightclub. So you have to dress up, you have to be over 18, etc. And as I said, we had 3 different rooms, different DJs, different bars, all different stuff going on. There was a VIP area as well, and it was good times. But I realized I had a successful setup because what I had was key people in each different crew, or how do you call it? When you have a different group of guys and girls, different there's a word for it, but it went out of my head. Cliques or whatever. You have different. The grungy groups, the stoners, whatever. You have all the different crews, the jocks. I don't know the names, what you guys use, but whatever it is. So I had one of each person in each different, kind of crowd, that's the word. All the different crowds, and I had one key person, and they'd sell all my tickets for me. And then we'd pack out the club. It was a good formula, it worked, yeah? Now, obviously they got free tickets themselves for selling so many, and it worked. Now, what I had to do was make a choice as the summer went on. Do I want to repeat? Do I want to keep this formula, keep doing it? There was an older guy who's actually a very wealthy person who owns a lot of media companies now, who was actually behind me to make these nights. He used to work with my family, but he's gone independent, very big guy. I'm not going to say his name, but anyway, he was there, and he was pushing me to do more nights like this because it was an easy money maker from the North London crowd. So what happened? I had to choose. Was this going to be my lifestyle? Because think about it. If you know the nightclub scene, what happens? There's a lot of drugs and drinking, and I have to tell you honestly, as successful as it was, and I got the nicest everything, the best alcohol, the best lady, everything I had access to. It was like the heights of my life in that world in London, and I felt the most emptiest I ever felt in my life. I felt like I was dying inside. I didn't feel functional as a person inside, yeah? And I knew there was something more I needed real relationship. I needed real connection. I needed something much more. And that's why, thank God, as I said, my wife, she was at all these moments, so I had already a potential soulmate in the waitings. By the way, we never did anything until we came to Eretz Yisrael, and she went to seminary, I went to Shiva, and we both ended up only connecting the right way through marriage, which in itself is a miracle considering our lifestyle. And, it was also laid out for me in that way. I've now been living in Eretz Yisrael 7 years, so this is quite a long time. We're talking about in the 90s, yeah? This was all happening. And, so what I'm getting at is there was a flow, but I had to choose in the flow of life, choose inspiration, choose the right place to be, the right person to be with. I had to make choices. Yeah, go on.
How did you go from being secular and running a nightclub to going to usually running
It's a big jump.
Polar opposite.
Yeah, it's a big jump. Now look, my family were not into it. My family are in the music business. Yeah, they're putting on, every kind of concert, event, entertainment stuff, anything you can think of, YouTubers or whatever's going on, they're involved in that world, and I was involved in it as a younger person, and probably going to end up in that. So I had a life set out for me. I had a family business I could go into. It was VIP, which means I could access any concert, any event, even, it's funny because they're putting out Spaceballs too. I don't know if anyone's ever into Spaceballs. But the Spaceballs one, I was at the whatever you call it, the I forgot the name, but the preview show. I was at the show with all the stars. So it's just funny that 35 years later, they're re-bringing out all the old stuff. It's all coming back. So in my time, that was like the movie. But anyway, the point was, it was a big transition to choose from all that life, glitz and glamour, meeting famous people and working in the more the promotional side, or being in Israel, where, as you can see, it's a challenging life. Yeah, there's wars. My son's now has to be putting his life on the line. And before that, coming to Israel, living very simply in the Shiva world, which is very simple life. It's not like glitz and glamour. There's no VIP. There's no fancy dormitories or, living in like a penthouse or all these kind of options that people choose nowadays, like, the fancy cars, the fancy clothing brands, all that stuff. I was giving up a lot. But it just, once again, I felt so empty at being at the heights of that in London, that I knew when I came to Israel, I felt I touched on something that was so deep and so profound and so real and so me, that I had to make it work here. I felt I found myself here. With all the challenges that are here, I knew on a deep level, and this is the part of what we're talking about, choosing inspiration, I knew I had to make that choice to really live inspired, to live feeling full with myself, at one with myself. And the best part was my wife-to-be, who knew me from that lifestyle. She used to come to my house parties. We used to hang out. We got quite close as very good friends. She also came to live here. So it was almost like my path had been prepared here as well from my old story. So she has context. She remembers my last big ex-girlfriend. She remembers all those scenarios. So she's got context. She knows all my friends. So when I still see them and still meet up with them, and thank God they've all gone on their journeys in a good way, I'm still, she's in the part, she knows who they all are, they all know her, and it gives some familiarity. So it was like, it wasn't just from out of nowhere, because even though she was from South Africa, the last 2 years before we came to Israel, she was living in London. So she knew my whole scene there. And it just gave me some context when we became, very close and married, Baruch Hashem. But that whole thing of coming to Israel, I really felt like a different level of lifestyle, where I felt more alive. I felt more, I don't know did anyone relate to this? The energy level was higher, the interactions with people was more intense, more real. I really talked to people, really connected to souls. My book that I'm writing right now is called United Souls. So this has become my life story. It's all about connecting souls together. The fact that we're standing here once again is not whatever. I was meant to be in Düsseldorf. You guys are meant to be in Europe. No, souls, Hashem, God decides we're meant to be in this room talking about this. And whoever hears it, whoever doesn't hear it, it's a real thing, yeah? And whoever hears it, it's a real thing. Anyway, so I think your question deserves really long answers, but I don't want to overdo it. So I've gone on a lot of different journeys, and I've discussed it in previous times I've come here, how I found my soulmate, the process of sort of removing some of the distractions, all the girls' numbers and all the ex-girlfriends, all the previous stories, and just focusing on one lady. And I talked about that here in the relationship flowing in. It was more intimacy style, but we're not going to do that now. But the point is that finding a soulmate for me was a very big part of finding my soul here. And I do feel that's a big part of it. That's why relationships are really important in terms of your journey from Australia or South Africa. If you do make it to come to live in Israel, it's a big part of it is how you connect with people is a big key to the success of making it work, because really the most important thing is going to be your relationships with the people here. That's what's going to give you the strength. What's given my son the strength to get through a whole war, and he's in a strong place now, is the relationships he's built. Now it was amazing with him. Here's a great story, because he grew up in a Chassidic world, with the payah and the whole thing. We were full on Chassidic, and then he went on his journey, went out of yeshiva and went on more on the streets, and eventually got him in a special program. Then he ended up in a very good program in the army that was very tough, but he became the top in that program, and then he ended up in Kravi and Sanchanim and, everything he did in the war. And he was one of the only people in his unit who was Shomer Torah Mitzvahs, surrounded with payers and tefillin and the whole thing. Everyone else is coming from a more left-wing, high society Israeli, completely different world, different education, different. And there was some Ethiopian guys, some Ukrainians, all different other kinds of souls there as well. And he got to meet all kinds of different people and serve, become blood brothers, become one with these people from such different worlds. And it was, like I said, next week's the Teches, they're going to celebrate what they accomplished finally after this crazy year and a half. And what's beautiful, as I'm saying, I'm writing this book, United Souls, I'm seeing how this war has brought out a certain deep connection that as a people we have, which is beyond all the different society boxes and differences amongst us. A very powerful experience watching my son go through this and meeting some of his teammates, and yet he's still connected to his old friends from yeshiva days, and just seeing how we're becoming a bridge kind of people as a family. The fact, once again, I was in Yerushalayim, is very Haredi, black, and now I'm living in a frat, and my past is still connected with the secular London and all the other experiences, teaching in loads of programs and all the stuff I've done in my life. You start to see all these bridges, and especially when you're working with musicians, influencers who are high level, they connect to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm involved in their flow. I'm their PA or their booking guy, so I'm seeing all the traffic coming in and out. And now I've got the new generation working with Laivy Miller and these new cool guys who are coming up in the music business, and you're starting to see the whole new generation, you guys, and starting to get an understanding of where this new generation is. I mean, I don't know, for me, when I watch Netflix, I don't just watch entertainment, I also try figure out where's the head is of the generation, because they're obviously going to market the movies according to, one, there's always a money side of it, how they can sell different intellectual property and make you buy things through the movie or through the series or whatever. There's always some sort of marketing angle. But there's also the aspect of what is the philosophy, what is the headspace of the people making this. So I watched this thing, I don't know if any of you saw it. It was number one right now, Hunting Demons. I don't know, I watched it. Some cartoon, weird stuff. I don't know what's going on. Or I watched recently another thing, Good Boys. Anyone see that? Good Boys? Yeah. Yeah, it's weird stuff, yeah. But I watched it and I saw where the kids are, is you can see, and that go back to that sex education thing, is people are desperate for connection, but it's in such a confused way. It's in such a confused platform. They idolize these guys who are famous or who are influencers, who are the big, but then people aren't really connecting as just people. It's about status instead of about connection. And that's obviously not what real relationships are about. Or it's about, how do I identify myself? Why so much emphasis on identification? How I identify myself? What about who I am? Yeah? Why do I have to identify myself in order to connect to you? Why can't I just be me, flow, and connect as you? That's how I grew up in the 80s, 90s. I didn't have to say I'm this, I'm that. I didn't have to give a label to myself and then be so proud about it, or be in a certain status, or how I represent myself. I don't know if any of this, if you've seen this or felt this, but I saw it online and I just feel like it's very confusing and not necessary mostly. You don't need to be so busy with it, most of the stuff that social scene is being pushed on us, that we do need to be busy with. This is not who we are. Especially if you're sitting in Bnei Akiva, you're sitting in Israel, and you have access to the truth of what humanity is about, and you have access to identify yourself based on foundational truths, things that are eternal, that are not just whatever. And that can give you a lot more clarity. When you really understand what is a man and what is a woman, and you're clear about that, and you're very clear about how relationships, how women feel and need to express things in certain ways, emotional ways, and men need solutions, and they need certain more logical, and obviously there's differences and then sometimes they overlap, but the point is that you start to get clear of what you are, and then you can work with true paradigms rather than all this confused stuff going on online. And that's one of the things I realize is I honestly just feel sorry for a lot of people, and I know you guys, thank God, you're not spending all day doing that, you're living, which is amazing, which is what our generation and the new generations, you need to actually live, not just live through these machines. You actually have to live. And to find relationships, that was the first class we always did in the sessions of relationship, and intimacy. You have to be able to actually connect to each other in real time, face to face, real moments of connection. And that's what I knew when I came to Israel. I felt that so strong. I felt like there was, like, for example, having a Shabbat. I didn't grow up with Shabbat. I don't know if you guys, you grew up with Shabbat? I didn't grow up with Shabbat. Like, it was like a Friday night, like, traditional, like someone, there was no Kiddush even. It was just like chicken soup or something, yeah? Or challah. That was about it. Better than nothing, but maybe my dad would be there, maybe my dad wouldn't, depending what event was going on that time of year. But the point was, I didn't grow up with Shabbat, like a real authentic, from beginning, sunset to sunset. So I didn't disconnect to reconnect. I didn't have that experience all of you take for granted, maybe on some level, or maybe you don't, maybe you appreciate it. But that's an opportunity where you can really connect to someone, like really talk to someone. The more I've had, as time's gone on, the more I've realized how awesome Shabbat is, Shabbos is. And I only experienced that in Israel. For me, that was part of my Israel experience. For you, you've had it part of your life. For me, suddenly just being able to talk to my wife, talk to my kids, it's the one time I really talk to my kids. I do talk to them during the week, send them a message, we have a moment, a good moment on having lunch together or something, we go out somewhere, but the real quality moments are Shabbat. I don't know if any of you relate to this, but like, it's a disconnect to reconnect. So you're not on the phones, you're not worried about status, you're not worried about all this noise, you're totally focused and able to connect with that other person, and that is inspiring. And once again, then you don't have to worry about, well, are we going to Europe, are we not going to Europe? It doesn't matter right now, I'm Shabbat. I can't do nothing about it. And it's just like a sort of letting go of all the pressures and just being able to just be. Letting go, remember we said letting go. And just to be, and then the relationship can really, wow. Then I can really experience this person. Anyone have any questions? I don't want to just speak. Yeah.
How did you find religion in your life?
So similar to what you were asking before, religion itself, what really empowered me was seeing how a lot of the things I was thinking about as a young person, like you guys are thinking, I saw it sourced in the Torah. I opened up a book, and what I was thinking about, remember, I was not running nightclubs, but I was also developing a very core group of cool people who I'm still very close with. One of them was my wife's twin brother. I'm very close with, and we were talking as young adults about very real things. But we didn't know where to source it. We didn't know where it was coming from. So maybe it was from a philosophy book. Maybe it was from something I read. Nowadays you have ChatGPT. You can find all kinds of information. But back then we were discussing all this stuff. And then suddenly I realized that there's a source for it. And when I started learning Torah, I saw everything we were discussing was in the Torah. Let's give you an example. Yeah. What's your biggest enemy? We always say, like, you hear on the line talking about this enemy, that enemy. Who's the real enemy for humanity? Who is it? Yeah, that's like how it comes out in a physical sense. But who's the real enemy? Yeah. Come on. Your mind. Yeah. So your mind is your ego. That's what I'm going to say. Ego is the same letters edging God out. It's the same first letters edging God out. Anyone in the addiction world knows that concept, because the reason why people get addicted to things, because they've made space in themselves, they've taken away any higher power, any ability to control themselves from above, and now they fill it up, the void, with all kinds of addictions. So generally, the ego is where the addiction begins. So with the phones, there is some level of ego involved, but with drugs and higher level addictions, sexual addictions, it all comes to do with a void. So you're edging God out. Ego is the big enemy, and it's in each of us. We have an ego. And we got to learn how to do it. So I wanted to know, what is this ego? And when I asked around in school, no one really cared. When I asked around in the so-called academic world, no one really cared. Didn't really, there was a few psychological analysts and things like that. Once I opened up the Torah, it's very clear what the ego is. We know what it is. We have a name for it, called the Yetzer Hara, evil incarnation. And we know how it's manifesting big time nowadays with narcissist people online and this whole culture of influencers who think they're running things and everyone should listen to what they have to say or what they do. And we know most of it is just ego. It's just nonsense. Yeah. So we have the ability, thank God, to the Torah, to already be one step ahead, that we have an awareness of this, what we name what this ego is, and we have tools to deal with it. So now we can have a little bit of peace of mind sometimes, because I'm not alone in this battle. I'm not controlled by this force as much as if I was clueless. Yeah. So I'm not a slave to all these these trends and whatever. I have my own freedom to choose in a real way a much higher level path of dealing with life and processing. So same with relationships. So if you're ego in your relationship, what's going to happen? You're going to ruin it. And then you won't have a relationship. Whereas if you're able to overcome the ego and put another person's needs first, you're able to listen to them and actually really listen. You're able to actually really give them the respect they deserve or the time they deserve. That's not ego, that's soul. That's something beautiful. And that is a big key that the world, once again, didn't know. So when I was secular, I didn't know about these concepts. And when I started learning, I was, wow, this is our tradition. I thought our tradition was some boring, church kind of experience. This very dry rabbi and pastor or whatever. That's how it is in England. I don't know what it's like Australia, South Africa, maybe it's a bit warmer there. But for me, Judaism was very cold. Suddenly I was seeing this warmth and this clarity and Shabbat and singing together and experiencing. So once I had those two experiences, Shabbat and seeing how everything has a source, everything has clarity, I was like, this is for me. I'm alive now. Now I'm starting to find the truth of what I need to do in the world. And so it wasn't so much religion that was driving me. I didn't want to, because when I got too religious, let's say, when I got too into the customs of the community, that also can be ego. Because now, how big my hat is and how big my, my toy, how much I learn and all that, showing off in that way, that's also ego. And that's wrong also. So it had to become very real, very authentic Judaism, very, very much about relationships and relationship with God, relationship with my people around me, and trying to hopefully bring a better world, really bring a better light to the world. That's one of the reasons why I do all this booking, these artists, because the people I work with are all very lit up people. They're people who are very inspirational and very clear. Yeah.
Did you used to wear the...
Strimel, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you...
I went full on.
How did you go from what? How did you...
Yeah.
Go from extreme and easy?
Well, that Strimel, the colour of a Rebbe bought me. He was a Holocaust survivor, if you've ever heard of him. He had his beard ripped off and all these operations done by not Goebbels, the other guy, Mendele, yeah? That Machsham, whatever his name is. Huh?
Yeah, the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor, yeah. So he was operated, so I got very close with him when I was living in Jerusalem, and he bought me my Strimel, because I was going on the path of Baal Shem Tov all the way. I believe in the Baal Shem Tov. He's the message for our generation. If you want to have a role model, the Baal Shem Tov is the guy. It's all about unity and about love and connection and true unity and really connecting into the oneness all the time. And that's why I was saying, I'm a human being. I was pissed off about the Düsseldorf thing. A lot of money, a lot of planning, but then if I'm really into the Baal Shem Tov, it was totally meant to be. And all the connection I had and all the efforts I made, one of the things I really pushed for, and I read this out in my previous session, I really pushed for Nissim Black to write a letter to the Düsseldorf community. Because I don't believe if something happens, oh cool, we just confirmed our events. It's going to be the 10th of July for Laivy Miller. That's going to be one postponed event reorganized. For the German community, I don't know when that's going to happen. But Nissim Black, who's on my phone here, wrote me a beautiful letter. And I really wanted this. Because for me, when I'm doing business, I want to be able to connect with people. I don't want to just make money. So I asked him, please write a letter. Please, write a letter we can be read out or posted for the community. This is what he wrote. Listen to this. Beautiful. But no one's seen this yet. It's just on my... With a heavy heart, I have to share that I will not be able to make it to our concert. Yeah, we're not make it to Europe. You guys went over to make Europe. I wasn't able to make it. Due to the current crisis on point between Israel and Iran, flights were cancelled. Even other options like boat travel were completely sold out. You know how expensive it was for a boat? It was like 500 euros each or something. It was crazy. And that was just one way. I want you to know that this is not just another show for me. And that was just for Cyprus. Then you're still going to go somewhere else. This is not just another show for me. I was truly looking forward to being with you, to singing together, praying together, celebrating life and faith through music. So he's not just making money out of music. It's about connecting with people. The connection I feel with my German fans is something deep and personal. I don't take it lightly. I wanted to bring light during dark times, but now from afar I'm praying for peace and for your opportunity to come back and give you the show you deserve. Please know that this is only a delay, not a cancellation of our connection. Hear the keyword connection? I hope to reschedule soon and come even stronger. Until then, keep me in your prayers as I keep all of you in mind with love and longing, Nissim Black. So this is a letter, for example. This is what it's about. Working with doing things with people that builds relationships, build connections. It's how you do stuff. And even when it doesn't work out, you still keep building the relationship. Go on.
But how are you like creating and still running this entertainment? Like,
So I made a big choice, and once again I chose when I was in yeshiva that we have to have music nights. Can't just be sitting learning Gemara all day, I did a lot of that, but I would need to express. I'm a musician. I was around music. I need to express that creative energy in me. I have to. So I've always made those kind of experiences. And when I got more involved, bit by bit, some rabbis have pushed me away from doing as much. But then I saw these holes open up. Like in the yeshiva world, there was no longer anyone funding Battle of the Bands or any concerts. And so I put on a Battle of the Bands in Jerusalem, and I got all these musicians involved, and the Solomon brothers, and there was a guy called Laser Lloyd, if any of you heard of him. I mean, these are older guys back in the day, but some of the people performing there ended up becoming Zusha. You heard of Zusha, that band?
Yeah.
So they were at my concerts, but they were like young guys from the Kotel, from the Yeshiva Kotel. Like a lot of guys who were starting out, like Mendy Portnoy, if any of you heard of him. He does Thank You Hashem, all their music. So he was in my concerts. All these guys were in my concerts. Israel Portnoy. I was doing this because I was known as the Midnight Rabbi, which even in the Chassidic world, but I was like all day like with the Chassidic guys on Shabbat and the Chassidic guys, and then I'd go out with all the like crazy yeshiva kids and make all these events for them and be up all night with them. So I was like in both worlds, because of that's what I was saying before, because of my personal journey, I was able to connect in both worlds without losing my focus. It was challenging sometimes. I didn't sleep much. A Midnight Rabbi, you don't sleep much. Yeah, what do you want to ask?
So do you still wear strammel?
Yes, I do. Shabbat, only Shabbat though, really. I mean, I don't wear the whole black get up during the week so much anymore.
Wear
Strymon I still wear. I'm the only one in the frat wearing it. At first, imagine my teenage kids, like they're trying to like come to a new community and fit in, and their father's walking around with Strymon. We just moved into a new building. Thank God we got this beautiful. You're all welcome to come visit. I live next to Shirat David. You can come, say l'chaim, come to my house. Beautiful home there. Thank God, Blianora. And we move into this building, and my teenager kids who are still like finding themselves, my younger ones, they're like very awkward at first. So I asked my youngest daughter, she's 13. She's like, no, I'm used to it already, and I tell all my friends, I'm proud that you're like the way you are. Your journey's amazing. So she gives me. My other one was very insecure, like get rid of that Strymon. It's so weird, like nobody else wears them. He was very insecure. But one of the things over time, if you keep strong about what you relate to, slowly, like I said, my youngest daughter gets it. My other son, he'll get it soon. Like he'll understand there's a certain strength of character that you don't have to just do what everyone around you does. And part of, I feel my personal mission in this world is to break all these boxes in Israel. I don't like them. I don't like the fact that everyone who's secular lives here, and everyone's very overly religious lives there, and they don't talk, and they're all like politically fighting with each other. I don't like any of this. This is the opposite of what's going to make the world a better place. We need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to break all these boxes. So I'm very happy, and I'm representing the light of the Baal Shem Tov, which is what I believe in as a path in Judaism. And I'm happy to share it outwards to all these people in a frat. Plus, you'd be surprised in a frat how many people have the light to share back to me. There's so many people there who are lit up on Chassidus, or you like meet Shmulafly. He doesn't wear a Strymon, but he's one of the most Chassidish guys I've ever met in my life. He's like flying, like he's high. Yeah. So he's an example of a very Chassidish soul. It doesn't matter what he's wearing. Yeah, go on.
So then, in your community, going to the army is like a bit frowned upon. Your son going to the army.
Well, back in my previous community, yeah.
Yes. So where did you live?
We lived in Jerusalem, right in the heart, like next to Mir Yeshiva, and my Rebbe was 5 minutes away, and very Haredi around there, all the Yeshiva people, yeah.
So your son going to the army.
So he was coming home in Madim, in the uniforms, and nothing ever happened, and I brought him. He came a few times to shul while we still lived there, and the rabbi was giving him love, and they gave him a Torah, and he danced on Simchas Torah, and he was part of it because they knew who he was, they knew his journey, and he was a real people. So because I feel like if the individual is strong enough to be themselves, then it breaks all the issues. So that's what I'm proud of my son. I'm proud of his journey. I'm proud of all my kids, and it's really about learning to tune into each individual soul and giving them as much support for them to achieve what they need to do. And they're all doing it in their own way. Very different. I've got one very Haredi kid. He's still that way, and he still comes to a frat. And he was in a shir. It was very Rosh was giving a shir, Rosh Katz, And he's reading from this Sefer from Shmuel Eliyahu, and it's all about all the different Sioni wars and victories. Very Sioni shir. And my son at one point was like against Sionism. He was anti. But now he's growing up, he's maturing, he's still dressed in the whole thing. But he was learning to respect it. He's learning to see the good in it. And that, for me, at least in my own family, I feel like we're role modeling what I believe is hopefully going to happen for the Jewish people as a whole, that we'll learn how to communicate better and be more together. That's my hope. Yeah, more respectful. Yeah.
Hey, this isn't such a deep question. I'm just fascinated by the whole
fine.
drama thing.
Yeah. It's all
in
good.
summer-
Fashion.
In summer,
Yeah.
is it not boiling hot? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, so it is a bit heavy and hot. So my wife said she really only wants me to wear it at the night time and the afternoon. Then Shabbos morning I have a talis anyway. So really it's more the cooler times I'm wearing it anyway. So practically I've already thought of that. The truth is, one rabbi used to make a joke to me, but all these clothing, they come with air conditioning. No, I'm joking, but it's a good joke. Yeah. Go on. Anyone? Come on, questions. There's so much going on.
Why do you wear sharp? Like why?
Oh, so the concept behind it is, and this is very deep, you want to see this. So you take a fox tail. There's 26 of them. Now, if you hate cruelty to animals, this is not your thing. You can buy not. What'd you say? What'd you say? No, I want to hear. What'd you
She
say?
just said I love cruelty to animals.
Oh, you do, you love it. Okay, so you can buy 10 straddles. One time I worked with this guy. Have any of you heard of Shine Po? Shine Po was Puff Daddy's right-hand man. He was with the famous shootout that happened with J-Lo and Puff Daddy, and it was a whole court case. So Shine ended up in prison. He came out of prison 10 years later. He was the fool guy with the Puff Daddy case. He came out of prison. He comes from Belize to Israel because they won't let him back in America, and he becomes my guy. And what happens after a short time, he ends up buying all the most expensive Strymals because he loves the fashion. Yeah? Hey, fashion. He's into the fashion of it. He recently just put out a documentary on hula, Shine Po, and Rolling Stones magazine phones me up. I've still got the article. They interviewed me for a while, and the only thing they took out of it was somewhat one negative sounding thing that I said was just in context of the whole larger positive thing, and that's what they posted that I said about him, obviously. And I like messaging him, bro. I didn't mean that you know how the media is. That's how the media world is. They generally take you out of context. But anyway, the point was he had so many Strymals. He knew how to with the swag. So the whole deep concept behind it is you take the lowest thing, the fox's tail, which is the animal, and it was in those days there was like the more royalty would wear these kind of things in Europe, and you take the lowest thing and you take it from the lowest place and put it on the highest place, which is on top of the head of a human being, especially on a covered Shabbos or on a Rebbe or someone who's a leader, and you put it on their heads. It represents royalty, like a crown kind of thing. So you're taking the lowest and putting it to the highest, and that's a very deep Chassidic concept that you can go into the nightclub and make the nightclub into a Beis Midrash, yeah, which is hopefully what I did today. Like I spoke about my nightclub days, and now we elevated it to Strymals and Eretz Yisrael and unity. That's the concept of elevating something low to something high, and that Jewish people have that power. We believe that's part of our mission in the world, not to separate from the world, but to elevate the world. So Strymalot is an example of how we do it through Shabbos and through honoring God. We do it through that. That's a simple answer. Any other questions? Come on, change the subject. Let's get out of the Strymal Sugya. Something else. It is an interesting subject. But anyway.
So then do you consider yourself Chabad? Or like
No, so when I chose my path, I initially was in the more yeshivish world, if you want to get into all the labels, and I did have strong connections with Chabad. The Chabad rabbis in university were very powerful, and if you had connection when you were back in America, but they have their Farbrengens and they have their nights, and you're on a campus, you're like surrounded by non-Jews, and suddenly there's this Chabad guy, and it was amazing having those experiences, and that probably was a big part of me getting here. So I always give credit to Chabad as a big part of my journey, but I was also in the yeshiva world, and I felt like there needed to be some fix there, because there is some split between those two paths, and I felt like I could be that kind of person. I'm named after a certain rabbi, Eliyahu Eliezer Dessler, who bridged those two paths. He was able to give shiurim on Chabad teachings in a more yeshivish place, which no one had ever done before. And I feel that's been part of my journey also, to bridge within the Jewish world the divides in the religious world, to also bridge through the different teachings, different paths. So I'm very much about, it's called Klali, including everybody. So when people ask me what path, I'm generally Klali, I'm here for Hashem. I once asked a taxi driver. The taxi drivers are the best in Israel. They're the most religious people there are. The real taxi drivers, the old school ones. He once asked me, he said, I have a very special Admor, Rabbi. I said, who's that? And this guy looks totally secular. He said, my Rebbe is the Ur-Kastin Rebbe. Ur-Kastin, never heard of it. Yeah? Heard of Ur-Kastin? Anyone biblical over here? Yeah? So Ur-Kastin, who was it from Ur-Kastin? Avram Avinu. So who was he making a joke about? His Rebbe is Avram Avinu. He's an Ur-Kastin Chassid. So it was a joke, but the point was, you understand from that we don't need to like box ourselves off, I'm this Rebbe, that I have a Rebbe. He's called the Tolner Rebbe, he's a very special person, he's been one of my guides in life. But in the end of the day, it shouldn't be a block for me to connect to people who I'm connected with. Yeah. It should open. My Rebbe himself, even though he's in Jerusalem, near Meir Sharim, in a very specific path, he's very open for me to go on these journeys. And it was actually him who first put in my head the idea maybe I should try out a different community. It's his idea. So, you have to understand that it's not like this, the way the media stigmatize, it's more fun to put everyone against each other. It makes more clicks, and it's a whole like negative algorithm going on, and we have to be careful with that with AI, that the AI doesn't turn us all against each other. We have to be, through soul, we'll find a way to always connect. That's a very important point that I write in my book, that we have to realize we all have souls, we're all unique, and we all have a special godly gift within each of us and a godly mission. And there's what to connect with every human being on this earth with. Some people we have to be careful, they're like dark, like our friend over there said, Amalek. There are some dark people around, and we have to take care of those people, and that's what we've been doing recently in the last 12 days in Iran, because there are unfortunately negative souls, or whatever they are. We have to take care of them. And thank God we have people who are brave enough and strong enough and willing to do it, so we can live here and have a good experience. But just to end off the class, if I would summarize, we had a few points, yeah? Relationship flow. Try be present. Yeah, it's unstable times. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're going to be. Try be present. Try tune into the now. Realize we have an opportunity to really connect with some beautiful people here. Yeah, this is an opportunity. I love those times of my life. I used to come back after these kind of experiences, like when I went on tour when I was your age or even younger. I felt so sad when I was no longer with my cool crew of friends every day. I was living back in my house with my room, and I had to go out to go meet people. Living so closely with people like this is such an opportunity to really connect. And I love this time period in my life when I had this opportunity like you guys have now. And there's nothing harder than being alone. Being with people is an amazing opportunity. Fine, there's a strength to also learning how to be alone and to use that aloneness time. But that's something you should choose. Right now you have the opportunity to be with people. It's amazing. And choose to really be inspired with it. Choose to make the most of it. I'm sure the program here are trying to give you some alternatives like bringing me in. But I think about how you can really choose inspiration during this time period. So you come, bless you. So you come back to Australia, South Africa, a little bit more inspired, a little bit more elevated, a little bit more in tune with who you are. So you're not just being sort of part of the trends of the world. You're better than that. Yeah, you have your own individual purpose and mission. And the best part is you get to share it with someone else. It's something exciting. You will find, please God, all of you, your own soulmate to share this world with. It's a beautiful thing to have someone you can share who will respect you and connect with you and fully become one with you. It's a beautiful thing, and it's something which the world needs to get back into gear, that this is something precious. Even if you see it all around you not working out, there's loads of divorce, there's loads of divide, doesn't mean you have to choose that. You can choose the better experience. You can choose a relationship flow that's lasts, and it begins now. It begins how you connect with the people right in front of you now. Yeah, what do you want to ask, man? And we'll end. You good? Yeah. Okay, so I just want to wish you all lots of success. It was a real honor. I don't mind coming back again. If you want, I can talk about specific like relationship stuff, like guy and girl stuff. I do that. It's one of my, I experienced it a lot, and now I'm trying to elevate that time period, and I'm trying to also be in touch with where the society is now. And be real with it, that it's not easy, but you've got it. I'm here for you guys if you want. It's up to you. But the main thing is, more importantly, you find that within yourself. You have a lot of the answers within. Believe in yourself and enjoy this time period. This is like an amazing time. I know it's a bit scary with the war, but in another way, it's going to bring you closer to each other in a way that if you hadn't gone through this, you wouldn't have known how much we need each other as a people and how much we need connection even more. Enjoy.